Welcome to A24 On the Rocks. I'm Eric Kiska, and today I'm drinking an Aperol Spritz. Up next, we have Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly Kiska, and I am drinking Black Cherry Jim Beam.
Hello, I am Cole William Whitlaw Gibson, and I am drinking Starward Twofold Double Grain Australian Whiskey on the Rocks.
My name is Blaze Fitzgerald Ryan the First, and I am sipping on some tap water tonight because I did a silly thing, and I bet that every time the Lightning scored on the Blackhawks, I would do a shot of Malort. So I am nursing that. Finally, a man that really needs no introduction, but I'm gonna let him introduce himself anyways.
My name is K-Con, aka The Great Gonzo, and tonight I'm drinking Imperial. I'm a peacock, gotta let me fly, which is a sour ale with sweet cherry and vanilla, 9% from Youngblood Brewing Company, right here in good old Wisconsin.
A24 On the Rocks.
Fantastic. So, basically, we all kind of wanted to start a podcast here about a movie studio we love so much called A24. And we're going to tell a little bit about ourselves so that you can kind of know like why we wanted to start this podcast, and you can get a little more personality behind the names here. So I'm from Grosse Pointe Woods, which is a little suburb outside of Detroit. I grew up being an aspiring director. Now I would say I'm an aspiring screenwriter, and I'm a mailman. And my favorite film is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson, and he's also my favorite actor. And growing up, I was pretty obsessed with Jack Nicholson and all of his movies. And also, I don't know, I just kind of watched a lot of like classics growing up, like Clockwork Orange, a lot of Kubrick films. So that is a little bit of my background. Kelly, tell us a little bit about you.
So I come from the Great White, which is to say Grand Blanc, Michigan. And it was a boring uprising, but you find a way to entertain yourself through content and media and design. And I find myself that my favorite movie is something called Repo the Genetic Opera. It is a gory rock opera, and it is absolutely gorgeous. It was graphic novel turned movie, and it's better with every rewatch. So that's what I'm all about. If you know what that as a base, that largely will be my lens of where I view movies from. It tells you a lot about me and what I think about things. After me comes Cole.
Hello, my name is Cole William Whitlaw Gibson, as described earlier. I grew up in Lansing, or Mason, Michigan, just south of Lansing. Family's Canadian, firstborn in America, pretty exciting. I grew up in a little farming town, middle of nowhere, no high-speed internet. It was a rough living, but the movie store saved my life. And I am a big cinemaphile. I love the 80s, and I love A24. Got real big into that. Obviously, that's why I'm here. One of my all-time favorite movies is The Thing. I just love the whole vibe and like the kind of like the onset of terror and uncertainty throughout that whole movie. And I also really enjoy the like practical effects that they performed in that movie were truly amazing. And you're gonna find out that I am a big vibe and like effects and like cinematography type person. So that really kind of drew me towards the A24 vibe. But up next we have my boy Blaze.
What up, yo? Thank you. Hey, man, those are some great movies. That's Kelly's favorite movie is the best movie with Paris Hilton in it. I would definitely have to say that. Yeah, I kind of come from the same background as Cole. Blockbuster was my favorite place to go on Friday nights as a kid growing up, and as I've expanded more into, I remember in college. I think it was with Eric Kiska, actually. We watched Cannibal Holocaust, and I got into all these, like,
Oh,
just weird, just like art housey films. And, for me, it's I used to be the more the gore. Like, I like the campy films, obviously. But then, like Cole said, I really got into, like, how films are shot more than anything, because I think more of what's not said says louder words than things that are said when it comes to movies. And that being said, my favorite movie happens to be an A24 project, a little diddly called Hereditary, starring Toni Collette. And I just think, we'll talk about it in 5 years from now, because that's how long it is in the list. But how they encapture her miniatures and how they like zoom in and out to make it, it almost looks like we have a god's point of view, and it's just such a really cool way to view it. So yeah, I'm going to try to bring that type of knowledge, I guess, or insight at least, when I look at these movies. And again, finally, we have the boy Kev.
Hey guys, like I said earlier, well, I didn't really say my name earlier, but my name is Kevin, and like many of you, I grew up on the classics. When I was a kid, it was the movies that Disney put out that obviously was kind of made the base for all of my movie loving moving forward. But Milo and Otis, the classic animals being lost out in the woods, Homeward Bound, the classic, things like that were things that totally reminded me that animals are the best thing out there for a lot of us, and why I love my pet so damn much. But in movies in general, I feel like one of those things where I don't know enough about it, which is why I'm here, including A24. I'm thinking like I'm the outside candidate in this whole group, but I bring a kind of a blank slate to all these movies because I'm not as familiar with them, which kind of brings a cool outlook to this whole thing. As far as the great movie hills to die on, I live and die by Die Hard being the greatest Christmas movie of all time, Major League being the greatest baseball movie of all time, Bill Murray being the fucking GOAT, Oscars being a joke, and Nicolas Cage being the voice of a generation, a modern-day Shakespeare, a poet, and the single greatest actor of all time. His classic Con Air will live in the annals of time forever. Thank you very much.
Welcome, Kevin.
If your career doesn't pan out, you should just write wrestling promos, because, like, you make me believe.
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here
Even though Die Hard is not a Christmas movie, you almost had me.
Hey,
It really is quite.
I didn't know you didn't know any A24 movies, Kevin. This is
Yeah,
a
buddy.
Oh.
surprise.
This is all brand new for me.
So see,
All brand
we've
new.
all been kind of following them for a while, and whenever they release new film, I'm like, it goes to the top of my list of seeing it. That being said, the point of this podcast is to review every single A24 film in chronological order. We hope that we will learn some things along the way and become better film reviewers, but at the same time, we hope we get entertained along the way, because today I cannot say I was very entertained by the movie, which is a glimpse inside the mind of Charles Swan III. And so, a little bit of background about A24 in general, though. It was founded on August 20th, 2012 by Daniel Katz, not of Barstool, David Fenkel, and John Hodges. Katz, he formerly led a film finance group at Guggenheim Partners. Fenkel was the president, co-founder, and partner at Ocelope. And Hodges served as the head of production and development. And the name A24 came from Italian A24 motorway. Cole, is that Formula One?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay. And so Katz was driving on this motorway when he decided to found the company. And the motorway is also renowned in Italian film history as the setting of the small Abruzan towns and rural landscapes employed in the films of neo-realist and surrealist masters. So Guggenheim provided the seed money, which that sounds a little dirty. I don't really know what that means. I guess they provided the startup money.
To grow.
And the company wanted to make films from a distinctive point of view. And that's a very kind of general, idea of the whole company. I don't think they, got it right away with this first one, but all of A24 films definitely have that kind of distinctive point of view, different feel to it. When A24 produces a film, kind of the feel of the film. Cole, you want to speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, so obviously, A24 just has that they're just very good at portraying like feelings and like like a vibe throughout the movie without words or anything, like Blaze was saying. This one, not really nailing the thing, but it is still like kind of boggles my mind that A24 released their first feature film in 2012, and we're 10 years later, and they just have like a plethora of films that have just been released, and so many of them recently have just been amazing. So it's truly like it's very cool to see like a newer, like a very young movie producing studio compete with a lot of these bigger, massive ones that have been around since the beginning of films. But yeah, A24, they just something about them, they just really capture that vibe. But they started off bad, and I'm very interested to hear Kevin's viewpoint of what he thinks A24 is all about after watching this film.
100%. And if that's the transfer into me, I of course have done my own little research on A24 since joining this lovely podcast, and of course watching this film and taking in kind of the approach. I have decided that A24 kind of got a little cold feet and weren't really sure how they were going to spend their first money on their first film. I think they kind of were looking for that quintessential, quirky Wes Matthews, wow, look at me watching basketball too much. Wes Anderson style movie where it feels just like a little bit artistic, right? A little bit extra on the side. It has that little quirky actor doing something a little extra, and it kind of slips through the background there, but it doesn't really deliver in the end. And I'm sure we'll get into that when we talk about the whole thing. But I think A24 kind of started out with a swing and a miss, but it wasn't deterred. It wasn't something they were going to slow down with, and they continued to stick by that idea of that indie movie that was bigger than kind of what maybe the festivals were giving it credit for. And we see that now 10 years later, which I'm excited to just kind of get used to that and see how the rest of the movie's playing out.
Yeah. So, A Glimpse Inside the Mind of Charles Swan III was released on February 8th, 2013. Written, directed by Roman Coppola, who is the son of famed director Francis Ford Coppola, who did The Godfather and Apocalypse Now. He also has helped write a lot of Wes Anderson films. Some of them he actually helped write the screenplay. Others he did the story for, including The French Dispatch, Isle of Dogs, Fantastic Mr. Fox, and The Darjeeling Limited. And then this, of course, stars Charlie Sheen. And I kind of want to talk a bit about Charlie Sheen and just how far he's fallen from pop culture relevancy. This movie came after the 2.5 Men debacle, and in the middle of when he was doing a TV series called Anger Management. It was after the whole Tiger Blood bit, after he was publicly in a polyamorous relationship with a porn star. And also, so this is a weird thing, I didn't realize this at the time, but the thing that got him canned from 2.5 Men was he was actually on the Alex Jones show in way back when, and he said some anti-Semitic comments about 2.5 Men lead writer and creator Chuck Lorre. And that's what got him canned from there. Blaze, talk to me a bit about your knowledge of your feel of Charlie Sheen in that time period, how big of a pop culture icon he was, and then kind of how he fell from there.
Oh my gosh, that man was like the epitome of Tiger Blood, to use an old meme. He definitely, you could see the wheels were falling off as soon as that. Like I remember why he got fired from 2.5 Men because of his, he pulled a Mel Gibson and said some pretty hateful shit, and he rightfully got kicked from the show. And then but this was this is 2010s, so the 24-hour news cycle, internet, everything was just getting big. So that was the thing that everyone latched onto. So he took it as I'm going to use this to just go absolutely ape shit. I remember he was having parties and he got HIV, I believe.
HIV positive.
Yeah. God, he was just a train wreck, and it's so weird because he was in such great movies in the 80s and 90s. 2.5 Men he made $1 bajillion off of. Then his brother was the famous Mighty Ducks coach. His dad was a great actor too, so he has the great pedigree. And this kind of, again, we'll talk about the movie, but it really feels like he was playing a parody of Charlie Sheen in this movie. I don't think it's a coincidence his name's Charles in this film.
Yeah, true. Kelly, you're a bit younger than us, and do you have the same kind of memories of Charlie Sheen around that time that we do?
I'd say I was too young to really know Two and a Half Men, but at the perfect age where you've got slightly unfettered internet access and the entire internet is full of tiger blood. And Schmoyo on YouTube doing the music videos of Charlie Sheen, and just, it was everywhere. It was all that you could see, and that's all I knew about him, really. And then as soon as he was on the scene and covering the entire internet, he was gone.
Yeah, he, pretty much ruled the headlines around that time, because on top of that, he was married to Denise Richards, too. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, she was very big, too, at that time. And I guess my first memory of Charlie Sheen was Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I saw that when I was a kid. And he was just kind of Ferris Bueller's sisters. I don't know. They kind of get together at the jail cell, basically. And, yeah, that's my first memory of him. Yeah.
Yeah, right. The unique thing about this whole thing with Charlie Sheen is that he kind of imploded before everybody's eyes, right? He used the internet as this public forum to go out and then all of a sudden just start spewing shit until everyone's like, holy crap, he's crazy. Let's all pay attention to him like he was some sideshow animal. And then he's like, wait, I can make money off of this. He did a world tour. He wrote a book. Maybe he wrote a book. I don't even know. But he took all of this tiger blood stuff and winning. Remember that? Like, how many conversations ended with winning in some sort of insert?
Double winning.
Have a conversation at work. Winning. It
was he
everywhere.
A precursor to Donald Trump? Like, did he give Donald Trump that phrase?
He was a huge conspiracy nut. He absolutely was on Alex Jones for a reason. Like, the dude was absolutely bonkers. And like Kelly said, as soon as he was there, go.
Yeah.
Just like that. And this movie that we're about to talk about right now, is this supposed to be this launch back into relevancy? It was supposed to be this back Hollywood thing where he's the man himself, the front focus, the leading guy. And then that's it. And there was nothing. It was like almost a love story to himself, and it was just awful. God, terrible.
So basically what we're saying is that he did huge things for memes. That's like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Charlie Sheen.
He was a meme artist. Kelly, would you say he actually hedges on a pop artist, like where he is the literal artist, like his public persona is the art?
He's an unintentional pop artist. Like, there's no, like, thought behind it ahead of time, and I don't think he's studying fame in his conspiracy theory trailer or anything, and then, like, how am I going to wedge myself here or there? I think that other people are making money off of his back, of him just going, like, off-the-wall bonkers, and he leans into that further. But he fell into it. It wasn't intentional. So I wouldn't call him a pop artist in that right.
Well, it's just it's crazy that he at the time was the highest paid like TV actor of all time. He was making like almost $2 million per episode of 2.5 Men, and then he just went absolute nuts and had just a complete train wreck and kept doing interviews during that whole time. Which usually when people like do that, they kind of like go away, but he was just like, nah, man, get me in front of that camera. I got something to say. And everyone was here for it.
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he hasn't done many films since 2000. He hasn't done any films since 2017, and Anger Management was his last big gig on TV. So, getting into the actual film, A Glimpse Inside the Mind of Charles Swan III. It is about a 1970s successful graphic designer, and he's kind of an ad guy. He's an artist. He makes logos, and Kelly here is a graphic designer. What? And I guess I'll go to you first. What did you think about like kind of the world they put him in? So personally, I didn't actually think that this film was placed in the 1970s until about halfway through the film. I knew that it had like it had all of the set design, the costume design, but like there was no like thing on TV or something to really tell me, oh yeah, this is actually in the 1970s, as opposed to it just being a directorial artistic choice to kind of have this guy like dressing like he's from the 70s because he's a has-been. So, Kelly, what did you think about that kind of the set design and the costume design to place you in this world?
So that's actually like the big pro that I'm going to give this movie. And we can talk about the negatives, and I'm sure we will in detail. But as far as who he was and the design of it and everything, so I'll start there. It's that he's driving around in this classic old car with bacon and eggs imprinted on the side. The way he dresses is like a certain style and everything. But I agree with you that you don't necessarily know it takes place in the 70s. You think that it might just be his personal style in kind of a retro way until a little bit later. That said, though, the costuming of everyone, the set design throughout the whole movie, I think was a huge pro. And as well as the opening of the movie, if I could talk on that too, was the biggest highlight in my eyes, with him being interviewed and having the graphic designer kind of brain pouring out of him on the black background, with all these advertisements and everything. If that's his world, it makes a lot of sense. It really got me excited for the movie. And then, yeah, trajectory was a downhill ski slope.
For sure. Kevin, did you have the same feelings about it?
Yeah, 100%. Going into it, I felt that it was going to have to do some work to impress me. I sometimes hate getting spoilers out of the way, but there was, that over-ending going to look at it before I watch it, and kind of had this feeling that it wasn't going to be fantastic. But the beginning was great, and I was going to give it a chance, and thought there was maybe something to it that was not really there. But as the entirety of it kind of plotted on, I was left with nothing but disappointment. But there was some artistic parts that I did think was quite excellent. I thought that the costuming in some circumstances with the cowboy outfits and some of the fever dream elements, that was actually pretty cool. And if they would have kind of went into that a little bit more instead of just leaving it as a first half of the movie type of thing and then abandoned it completely as part of what the film was about, maybe I was going to get into it a little bit more. But for me, not only was the soundtrack, or not the wardrobe a little bit, but the soundtrack for me, it was an original track, which I found out later, which was kind of interesting. It was just commissioned by a guy who makes music, I think maybe out of Detroit, if I read that right. But it didn't actually fit for me. It didn't felt like it was kind of transitional. It wasn't like each song fit what each scene was supposed to be. And maybe if they were using some original tracks instead of, or some time pieces instead of that, it would have been a little bit better. But for me, that from the artistic standpoint, it was trying a little bit too hard, and it could have been better in some spots.
Yeah, the composer and performer was Liam Hayes out of Chicago, actually.
Chicago.
But, yeah, for sure. So, yeah, Blaze, when you saw that intro, what did you think, like, you were getting into in this film?
Yeah, so, like, I hate to sound like a broken record. The intro was very interesting. I really, going into it, I knew it was written by Roman Coppola, who, does Wes Anderson-y type of film. So I thought I thought I was going to at least, it's supposed to be Charlie Sheen, right? So, in a fantasized world. So, when he's, that black background and everything, it was like, okay, this could be something interesting, where he's going to play a fictionalized self, according to, like, the plot reviews or whatever. They said it's about him redemption. So, you knew it was going to be, like, the horrible breakup or whatever, and then, his swing back into relevancy. That swing never happened. But as far as opening credits, like I said, it reminded me of like a Wes Anderson type of film. So it had that going for it.
And then after, I feel like it took a big downturn. Cole, what did you feel about it after the intro? Like exactly where it put you after that huge stylistic intro?
Yeah, so watching the movie, so there was a lot of like color choices. It seemed like there was a lot of like reds. Everything was like very red or very blue or very like green. Like it started off and it shows him in like a red robe in a red room, and then it switches to blue and he's talking to his girlfriend, and then he like also had glimpses of like Quentin Tarantino with a lot of shoes and feet going on, with all the shoes on the ground. and then he's like loading them up in like a green trash bag, which who has a green trash bag? It's very strange. And I was like, man, there's a lot of like bright colors going on, so I started keeping track of everything that was like red, blue, and green, and there's a fucking lot of them, which a lot of like weird things. Like he had like a green velvet suit, his car was blue, like the hospital was blue, and then I realized that none of this mattered because none of it really tied to anything, and it was just the director just liked those colors. I'm assuming because I could not figure out why they were those colors for a lot of things. And it
yeah,
just,
if I could jump in,
go
as
for
far
it.
as designers go and everything, those are your 3 colors if you're a digital designer. And though it is the 70s, it's not like they had computer channels or anything, but red, blue, green are your 3 channels.
Fair
so,
enough. And maybe.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. We discovered the reasoning behind those colors. But yeah, it's just like, I don't know. The intro was very cool. It got me interested. I liked the like start where it's kind of confusing as to what's happening. He's like getting broken up, and then he's like in a hospital, but there was a lot of like very hard cuts that were hard to follow, and I was trying to figure out if it was like dreams or fever dreams or reality or what.
Yeah.
And it was just and then turns out none of it really mattered, and in the end it just, the end happens and you move on with your life. But I did love Jason Schwartz, his cowboy outfit with the Schwartzman with the star of David's on his shoulders and stuff. It's a very nice touch. And Bill Murray dressed as John Wayne from I think it's like War Wagon was also a very nice touch that I enjoyed greatly.
So yeah, let's touch on the ensemble a bit here. They, Charlie Sheen, obviously the star here, but then Catherine Winnick plays Charlie Sheen's ex-girlfriend. They splurged. They got Bill Murray, who around this time was doing a lot of indie films. He was kind of, reinventing himself as this cool indie actor, and he was, doing weird things on the streets where apparently he would like come up to people behind urinals or something, tap on their shoulder, and then they would turn around and he would tell them like, they'll never believe you, and then he runs away. I heard stories like that. And then obviously you have Aubrey Plaza, who during Parks and Rec time. But she was still kind of like a lesser-known actor, doing more indie films mostly. And then, of course, you have Jason Schwartzman, who's been in all the Wes Anderson films pretty much. Like, not all of them, but a lot of them. And he was also in a Tim and Eric's Bedtime Stories, which might be one of my favorite shows on TV of all time. Either way, they definitely splurged on this ensemble cast, but I feel the material wasn't quite there for them to deliver. Blaze, talk about the cast a little bit.
Yeah, I think you also missed Patricia Arquette. She's in the movie.
Oh yeah, of course, Patricia Arquette.
So I use the name Wes Anderson a lot, and Jason Schwartzman and Bill Murray are 2 very, very reoccurring people that show up in his films. So it pretty much goes hand in hand. Like you said, I think from a production standpoint, I feel like this is probably why A24 took their shot at this movie, because of the cast that was attached to it. Again, Bill Murray's one of the all-timers. Jason Schwartzman, he's always done that really good at like the artsy, funky-ass movies that he's always into. Charlie Sheen, like we said before, he was blowing up at that time. He was the most famous person on the internet. Aubrey Plaza, like you said. I think Mary-Kate Winstead was in it, if I remember seeing her correctly.
Yes, yep. Ramona Flowers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
So, I mean, as far as, like, when you get asked for a cast and you told me all those names were attached, I would expect a pretty decent movie. So I think they did a good job in getting the type of people for that type of film. It just, like I said, it just never showed up in the plot progression. It fell apart in the writing and the plot progression more so than the characters. I actually thought Charlie Sheen acted pretty fine.
How did they get all these people in the film? It blows my mind that they got all these people. I do not understand how they got the budget or the time or the commitment from any of these people. That was my comment. Also, Catherine Winwick or whatever is in the show Vikings and is Lagatha, and she's awesome.
I guess, so this was like only the second film that Roman Coppola ever directed. And so maybe it was just like, oh, this guy's done stuff with Wes Anderson. They gathered this amazing cast. But I don't get how they didn't read the script and just kind of see how it ends on such a flat note. And all these actors read it, saw everything attached to it, I guess. But they they still went along
Maybe
with
they
it.
thought Charlie Sheen was just gonna go improv and go crazy.
He's gonna carry this movie.
Again, I think because again, okay, these fantasy sequences were supposed to be like that quirky, haha, look at how fun of a film we are, making fun of, the womanizers are the good guys, so we're gonna show a bunch of women on horses shooting them in the heart because that's symbolism in art.
Oh, I have a problem with that scene. She did not use that bow properly. She had her top finger wrapped around the top, so when you would shoot, the fletching's going to cut her fingers, and it's going to ruin the shot, and it's going to go all over the place. That bothered me. Also, this is a comedy movie. The only time I laughed was when Jason fell off the horse. Only time was when he was getting off of it. He just kind of fell down.
Oh, my God. Who wrote that stand-up? I know he's not, a traditional stand-up comedian, but...
Yeah, that was horrible.
Missiles, women. I just didn't at least write something funny if you're not going to have a stand-up. Not a stand-up, play a stand-up. It was awful. There's some pretty.
Kelly, so what did you think about the treatment of women in this film, how they depicted women too?
Ideal situation. Wish we could go back to those simpler times. No, it was terrible. Go ahead, Kelly. Give us perspective from a woman.
Yeah, as a woman. But I had the first time that we see, and I don't know my actors very well, that's going to become a reoccurring topic throughout the whole thing, but the ex-girlfriend with blonde hair.
Lagatha.
The way that they...
Catherine Winnick.
Yeah, the way that they were showing her kind of in his mind and everything was Hitchcock-esque. Vertigo, the slow turnaround, the slow appearance of the blonde. So I had these high hopes and expectations, and then scenes that she was actually in and interactions that they would have just fell flat. And then in his fantasy land, it was just over the top. Women are evil. Is that what we're supposed to pull from this? Because that's all I got, and I was trying to keep a pretty open mind, and there's nothing redeemable about the way that the women were written. Not really. So I found that a little bit disappointing.
Maybe Roman was hurt,
Well, okay, so the weird thing about this movie is, it's okay to have, an anti-hero as your protagonist. It's okay for people to have flaws. But the character of Charles Swan is so unlikable as a character. Who just just keeps nudie photos and they're pretty much wide in the open, and we're supposed to feel bad for this guy for openly cheating. This is supposed to be his big, that's what I talk about, the big redemption swing that he's supposed to have. There was no arc. He was just oh, woe's me because I cheated on my girlfriend, and here's my stand-up comedian buddy who's with me. It's I don't get it.
And I agree with you that an anti-hero still can be someone that you root for, and a lot of the times that works really successfully. But with him, they never really gave us anything deeper, and I know that it's just a glimpse into his mind, but give us something to root for, to be invested in. But then again, if we were, then what would it even bring us to? Because there was nothing that it ever led to.
Kevin, what did you think kind of the general themes of this movie were supposed to be, the takeaways we were supposed to get from it?
I feel like this movie had a skeleton. It had an outline. It had something that it was supposed to be, something that the director was like, this is what I'm going to share to the masses. The first theme, never fall in love again. Oh, he was sitting on the hospital bed with his two nephews who were way too young for this subject matter. There was even times in this movie where he was drawing pornography, it seemed like, and was talking about large breasts in front of his kids, and it was just kind of it was supposed to be funny, and it was just super awkward.
Yeah.
And there was another point where it was the Monopoly bit where he memorized all of the starting rules to Monopoly really quickly, and they were going to play, and then they left the hospital room real quick, and I was like, why are we talking about Monopoly? It was just a very awkward thing there. But never fall in love again was a big theme. The next one was, can you love someone and then hate them too? Now, in all fairness, that's a deep question. That's something that, you actually can think about from, in love and romance and movie themes. Can you have that difference between love and hate? But it was just so poorly explored. It was just you have a relationship that doesn't work out. And at the end of the movie, they parted like adults and whoop-de-doo. You don't hate the person because of that. That's just the way relationships go. And then the idea of the ending, I did like the theme at the end where they talked about how each other's relationships all added up and part of their life. Like at that ending part there where it's like each other's experiences added up to who they are in the long run. So there were these overarching themes, but it was just so poorly explored and poorly thought out that I was just left making fun of the film more than actually paying attention to what the film was trying to do.
I love the fact that there was like that overarch of like the very beginning with the foot fetish with all the shoes and stuff like that, and he takes the bag and he throws it, and it leads to all this other stuff of him going to the hospital and all this stuff, and then it like circles back and she says, "Oh, I want to come get my shoes," and you're like, "Oh, he's gonna do the good thing and like get the bag out of the tree finally and like get his life back on track, give it to her, move on, be adults," and it just shows him just getting the bag and then just chucking it further down the hill. It's like, I'm over you. I've moved on. I'm an adult.
That was the cleansing moment. That was the moment. That was like the arcing thing. Like, fuck you, lady. I'm
like,
done.
I just loved how the whole arc was just like, you're a shitty person. You're a shitty person. Yeah, you're still a shitty person.
Right. Well, I think
I want my shoes back. Nope.
Again, I'm thinking of like why this movie was even made. Like,
Charlie
outside
Sheen.
of the fact that, I think, like, what? I hear the term, like, vanity project a lot, but this is, like, just overdoing it. They just, like, assume that everyone loves Charlie Sheen and Charlie Sheen-type characters, and there's no growth, and, like I said, these, I know, like, what they're trying to do with these, like, fantasy sequences and stuff like that, like, I actually, like, as far as like set design and stuff like that goes, I think it's like really cool. But they do absolutely nothing for the story. He doesn't learn anything, and it's just like, why are we doing, like, I don't understand. Like, I was finding myself like trying not to check Facebook every 20 seconds. Especially during those fantasy sequences where the plot just refuses to advance. We don't learn anything. So
yeah, and I agree with you that it seemed very vanity project, and something that we've all spoken about just briefly was the attempts at humor that like absolutely do not land over and over and over again. And I think that all of us are fans of kind of like off the beat, like irreverent humor. So it should hit, like it should be okay, but every single time it falls flat, and you can't even smirk.
Did you?
So as far as
there was the one line he walks up, right? He's about to confront the boyfriend who's about to go skiing, and the boyfriend just looks at him. He's like, I've studied Wang Chung. I was just like, what? Like that's your line? That's your go for? Like I'm Wang Chung, and that was the end. I was like, okay,
what
this
you guys?
is just
Did you guys
awful.
like the just the random scene of him like laying on a hot dog, and then he also gets X-ray goggles or sunglasses just randomly? Like,
they had to get their R rating in.
that's true.
They had to make
It's
sure
like,
they
look
got
at
their
a
R
bunch.
rating.
I just like, I think Kelly says it really good. Like, I think we all appreciate the type of humor they were going for. I think, I don't know if it just wasn't acted right or it was just like, okay, so I think of
Poorly written.
the taxi cab scene, right, where he's like, "Oh, you got any drug guys?" He's like, "Well, I know a caviar guy," and like in a different movie that might be funny, but then like they like play it straight, like they're like in the back parking lot or whatever, and they're acting like they're doing illegal shit, but they're just getting beluga caviar, and it's just like, get it? Charlie Sheen does drugs, haha,
yeah.
His drug is life, da 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 da. It's like, okay, we get it. Stop masturbating. Get this movie over with.
I guess the main theme I kind of gathered from it is a rolling stone gathers no moss. Like a person who does not settle in one place will not accumulate wealth or status or responsibilities or commitments. And obviously he's like going bankrupt during the film. He had a successful life, but he is extremely unhappy with how he never really found love. He's so sidetracked by wanting to live like how he always did that he can't settle down and work. And it's kind of aging getting the best of a creative, And he obviously can't let go of the past. He has the garbage bag full of shoes and all the nude pictures in his drawer. And I think it's like a big, I think what they wanted us to feel from the film is that you should let go of the past. And I think that was him throwing the bag even further down the hill was him letting go of the past truly. Like, there was that tree in the way stopping him from letting go of the past, from stopping the garbage bag full of shoes to fall down the hill. And, and then he finally is able to chuck it at the very end. And so I think that's what they wanted us to feel from the film. The problem is, I did not care enough about the character, or, the acting just was not good enough for me to actually care that this guy finally let go of his past. So, yeah.
There was even a moment in there when we were supposed to feel super bad when his toucan got mysteriously murdered by someone.
Yep.
But they never revealed anything further about why the bird died or who killed it, or why there wasn't subtitles in the second scene they were speaking Spanish, but there was subtitles in the first scene. And I just want to know how we're going to get justice for this bird. I mean, that bird was
Clearly
the
wasn't
first
getting
thing
fed
in
enough,
his
or
wheel.
wasn't eating enough, right?
That was weird.
Yeah.
God, see, like, I forgot about parts of why does he speak to his, like, made in Spanish, and then, like...
Well, Charlie Sheen isn't he, like, half Mexican or Spanish?
Well, he's, like, Latino,
yeah,
but,
so
like...
it's his life, man.
Okay.
He's,
But is Charles Swan the Third Spanish?
Right, did we touch on that?
I do love the call-out of the most expensive coffee in the world, which is a real thing, where he's talking about the coffee that the animal eats and then shits out, and they collect the beans from its poop. That's a real thing. It's weird, and I don't know why people do it, but it's a thing, and I love that it was like, it just like expressed how much just like bullshit he spends his money on.
I don't know. It's just like the ending of him, getting the bugging equipment where he could listen to her conversation in the house, and then she just kind of awkwardly sees him through the bushes, and it's
He's
just
so
like
close.
so poorly
He's so
done.
close.
Yeah. Overall, yeah. We will give our grades for this film, and how we grade these films. We do an A through an F24, with A24 being the best grade. And I think I'm going to give this an E24. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen, but definitely the worst A24 movie I've ever seen. The writing, the story, the acting, it was just so underwhelming for all the talent that Roman Coppola had on his team. And I'm going to go ahead and say Roman Coppola might be a nepotism baby. It's like, I think he really only got where he got because of his last name. Not to shame, like, all the Wes Anderson films he was on, but honestly, Wes Anderson films, they're not as much known for their writing as their style, their directing. So I guess, maybe he gets some points for that, but not a ton in my book. And that was definitely at the point, Charlie Sheen, he really started going over the hill. Like, I think he did have something in the 2008 to 2012 time frame there, where he was a good enough actor to carry a TV show. But in this one, I think it's just like he was really going over the hill. So he didn't make me care about the character at all. Not captivating. All of the ensembles in the cast, they were poorly done, poorly written, and the directing and execution of the story was just sloppy at best. So Kevin, what grade do you give this film?
So I'm not going to give the first A24 movie that I ever reviewed the absolute worst score possible, because that would mean there was nothing lower to go, and that just seems irresponsible. So we're going to go with an A24 D minus, because it was pretty damn bad, but because there was
D minus 24. That's how.
Yeah, D minus 24. Yeah, there we go. There was some excellent actors that tried to do their best with what they were given. But in the end, all of this movie tried to do was be a Wes Anderson flick and nothing more. It sold itself on the quirkiness of that. It sold itself on his connection to them, to the director's connection in the first place. It sold itself on that from the beginning, and it just absolutely fell short from the beginning to the end. It tried to make the audience feel a certain way. It tried to make you laugh. It tried to make you feel like there was some awkward moment that was better than it really was in the end. It really just tried super hard, and that's all that I was left with. I was super grateful that it was only 124 minutes long, because any minute longer and I absolutely would have turned off the TV. I'm glad it only made $45,000 domestically, because this terribleness
super
of a movie
popular
is
in Russia. It made a bunch of money in Russia. Most of its money in Russia.
And there we go.
Strange. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I guess that's all we have to say about this movie. and I can't wait to talk about the next one.
Cool.
Yeah, so another correction, it was 86 minutes. 124 is way too much. It is way too long. This thing is only 86 minutes.
Yeah, it was like 84 minutes.
Yeah, and like 10 minutes were the credits.
I don't even know what I
Maybe
was
it
thinking.
felt like 124 minutes.
It is a brisk like 75 minutes max.
Hour and 24 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe
There
that's
you
what I was
go.
looking
Okay, that
for.
makes more sense. Yeah.
I'm with Kevin. I can't give it an F because I there might be something worse, but I'm like struggling to think of a movie that I've just not cared for more than this one. However, it was only 86 minutes, so it did not take a lot of my time. I've definitely wasted my time on for way longer on way worse shit. So I'll give it an E. I'll be an E24 boy. I can't really say that there's anything good, grand, or indicative of this being anything more. And also, it ruined Roman's career as a director since he never directed a movie after this. So, I mean, maybe some good things came out of it because obviously he's not a director.
Kelly?
E24 from me. You had everything in your wheelhouse to make a good movie. Everything at your hands, and you failed. And it was unfunny, and it led nowhere, and I took nothing away from it. But the style was nice, so you're not an F. E24.
What is this E coming from? What school did you guys go to? It's ABCDF.
I think it gives us one more like
Yeah,
letter
we
to give
need
a
it.
grade.
Something
Yeah.
could be worse. I mean, theoretically.
Okay.
Tier.
Yeah.
On a
All right,
tier
I
list,
just
you still
feel
get the
weird.
E.
No, you go for an F, baby.
Like when
Do
Eric
it.
said E24, I thought he was joking. I'm like, why am I the only one laughing?
We're playing Battleship.
Listen,
Well, yeah, we're not going by actual school grades. I guess.
I got it.
We just want to go A through F.
okay. Now I know. Be that as it may, I will give it an E24 as well. Mainly because it was A24's first movie. And I think everyone gets that, first at bat. With horrible swing and miss. I think it relied way too much on the star power and who was behind the scenes. And it was just, like I said, it was just trying to be that quirky, fun art movie. And it just assumed that we loved Roman Coppola because of who his dad was. And it assumed we loved Charlie Sheen because of what Charlie Sheen was. It was all just, them looking at themselves in the mirror and being like, we don't even have to write this. We just, put some cool color palettes on and, we'll just skate by. And it's not a good movie. But like I said, I'm going to give them that free pass. I hope the next movie is better. I know Spring Breakers is better. That's our third movie. So hopefully this is like just, the training wheels. Now the training wheels are off. After this movie, I'm going to start like grading these a lot harder. But for the first one, terrible movie. But I can't give it an F because it's their first one. So
For sure. Any other comments on
What's our
this
next
film?
movie?
burn it. It's like
So our next movie will be Ginger and Rosa, directed by Sally Potter. The friendship between two British teenagers is tested during the peak of the Cuban Missile Crisis. But this actually got better reviews than this film, and I don't know. I'm hoping that it kind of picks up from here. Ellie Fanning was in the next film, Christina Hendricks, and Annette Bening. So I think those films, those actors, hopefully should be enough to carry a film. Even though
It's got
this
Christina
film,
Hendricks in it. I'm all in.
really underwhelmed.
it will actively have to try to be worse than this movie. Like
Yeah.
they could just
100%.
They're gonna have to like put like manure in a reel and just So no, not a great first movie at all. Just burn it. I want my $2 back from YouTube. I'm gonna see if that goes.
By the way, if you get your library card, you can go on Canopy. You just gotta enter a pin from your library card.
This is a
And you can get
Canopy
it for free.
advertisement.
I
Yeah.
tried.
Yeah, maybe.
I tried.
Hopefully, Canopy could
Savannah.
give us a
Yeah,
sponsorship.
Savannah, Georgia libraries don't do that, so I couldn't
Oh.
do it. No,
Oh, really?
I tried.
I'll have
Oh,
to
that's
check
not
Tampa.
surprising
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Oh. Bullshit. I had to use my Showtime
Yeah.
subscription, which I didn't realize I had.
Yeah.
Savannah has libraries?
Yeah, Savannah, Georgia. Yeah.
Didn't they burn all those books?
You're in
Anyway.
Evolution,
You're in
my
South
ass.
Florida. You're even in a worse place. than
It's
me.
just the Bible.
It's just the Bible.
There's like 500 different versions of the Bible at the Savannah, Georgia
You
library.
can just rent one chapter at a time. Oh, damn. Psalm 52 is out again? Come on, Martha.
That's awesome.
Can I say one last thing on the movie?
Sure.
To
Yeah.
go outside of the A24 wheelhouse, did anyone else get kind of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood vibes? Would be the good way to do that movie?
Yeah, well, it's very stylized, like the same way Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is. So I think that stylized 70s feel is very, very akin to each other. It just one was executed way better.
Yeah.
They both had
Yeah.
similar feet shots of like her close up with her feet on
Exactly.
the car and all
Oh
that
my
stuff.
Yeah.
Cole, can we start a feet counter on this channel? Like,
We definitely should. I am not a.
Shoes being the overarching the overarching theme in that whole thing was just weird.
Cole.
Shoes at the beginning, shoes in the middle, shoes at the
My
end.
my first note is just foot fetish ? And then I wrote confirmed after
Yeah.
they had the close up of the feet.
You write that at
I
the
need to
top
say-
of all of your journals, just be
oh
honest.
my god.
Yeah.
No, that's just your
It
personal
is a popular
journal.
porn genre for a reason, so.
The funny thing
Yeah.
is that's Cole's personal journal.
Yeah,
He was watching the movie, he's like, do I have a foot fetish? Confirm.
Yeah, I watched the movie
Yeah.
and I was like, I definitely do.
Oh, okay. So from now on, we're going to end every podcast with Cole giving us a foot count.
All right, foot counter.
Yeah, I really hope this makes it into the pod.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Eat your
it is.
heart
That
out.
comes
Eat your
good.
heart out, Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
Let's
Roman
go.
Coppola's coming for your ass.
Yeah.
Winning!
I can't believe that's the first time someone said that. I enjoy our constraint. That was very good.
That was a good one.
But anyways,
Yeah,
All right, next week I will.
Fun fact, all $12,000 in the box office that this movie made, they were actually all Quentin Tarantino tickets.
Oh,
He bought all
yeah.
of the tickets.
I believe
Who
it.
knew? Who knew?
Wait,
Yep.
Crazy world.
He just watched it over and over again for the feed.
Need more feet.
Just for the feet.
All right, well,
All right.
I think that's going to give us, also give the crowd like kind of a good template for how we are as people. Some of us are degenerates here, and it's going to be, there's another A24 podcast called the A24 Project that has kind of the same idea as us, but I hope that you will find that we're a bit more vulgar, a bit more rough around the edges, and if that's your kind of podcast, then hopefully you'll like us.
only one of us shaves
straight.
apparently, so that's.
Yeah. Kelly, the only one without any facial hair.
You gotta like.
You gotta step up your game,
Like,
girl.
you gotta get like a mustache wig from like based off Eric's, and then just wear it for the podcast.
Or get like one of those like knitted masks that look like a beard.
Because, how can you give your opinion on movies if you don't twirl your mustache? That's all.